Hey everyone! We are Harlan and Naya. Welcome to episode 9 of our pop culture series, Riding the Wake. Today's show is Lifting the Weight, where we'll talk about the K-drama weightlifting fairy Kim Bok-ju, a show that is all about individual and social pressure and struggles of highly competitive athletes in various sports and how they handle that journey and how, as competitive and recreational paddlers, we handle similar, if not entirely the same, pressures and struggles. So, Naya, let's talk a little bit about the Dana Ocean Challenge before we kick off our discussion of Kim Bok-ju.
Yeah, let's do it.
It looks like Dana Ocean Challenge is going to happen on 3/19, and you can register for that on paddleguru.com, which is where you can also find more information, race maps, locations, all that stuff. So go on out there and enjoy. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make the Dana Ocean Challenge this year, but a lot of our folks are going to be able to make it. Hopefully, the weather is on track. Cross the fingers.
Yeah.
And we've also got the 17th annual Dragon Boat Festival in Tempe, Arizona, March 26th and 27th at Tempe Town Lake. And I'd like to encourage anyone who wants to come down to either participate if you're on a team or to just enjoy the day because it's pretty fun and exciting. The address there will be 550 East Tempe Town Lake, Tempe, Arizona, 85281. So, what can people expect at the Arizona Driving Boat Festival? I haven't been there.
Well, we use it as the opening race for the season. San Diego does, and I'm assuming other Dragon Boat clubs do. It's a really great venue. It's freshwater, and there's going to be a lot of vendors out there. You're going to see a lot of racing. There'll be, I believe, a kids and cops one, which is kind of cool, or adults. So you'll see youth, you'll see disabled and able-bodied people in the same boat. They're in a different category all their own. There is an event called, I forget what it's called, but I'm going to say it's like a blindfold one where you get teams of people. They have blindfolds, and the only people who can see are the steersman and
The
the
drummer?
caller, the
Yeah.
drummer. So that should be fun. There's a $250 knockout one, which is fun too. I mean, it's hard. You're going to see competitive rec. You're going to see all types of people who are doing Dragon Boat, but I would venture to say if you could only go see one event, go watch the breast cancer survivor teams because those girls and guys are fucking phenomenal, and we do a good job. The Dragon Boat team community does a good job of spotlighting them because they are um, our company, our community. They're fighting the disease, and we just love to support them.
Yeah, yeah. The story behind that is that breast cancer survivors often need a lot of work on their upper bodies, and it has to be um, sort of
Yeah,
managed properly. I guess you have to obviously you have to be able to enjoy doing it. It can't be too straining. So it's part of their like ongoing strength routines.
yeah,
This was an idea of a doctor, and it's become quite a popular uh, training routine for a lot of breast cancer survivors. So it's
yeah,
something that our community celebrates.
yeah.
Cool.
So go out and support them
Yeah,
and
please
us.
do. And if you want to learn more about that, it is AZDBA, standing for Arizona Dragon Boat Association, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah, .org/festival. So AZDBA.org/festival for more information.
Yep.
All right, cool. So that brings us into our keynote for today, our heavy lift, you might say, for the
We're
day.
lifting that weight, Harlan.
Yeah, we're gonna be talking about weightlifting fairy Kimbokju, which is a K drama that I caught several months ago, and I enjoyed it so much. Um, like I, I think that people watching this might think that I love all K dramas, and to some extent, I love the idea of all K dramas, and I think that most K dramas are probably like a tier above Western television, and we can argue about that if you'd like. But my but I don't recommend all of them. This was one of the ones that I recommended to you, Naya, and I'm glad that you picked it out. And I think you might have enjoyed this even more than me.
I did, because I took it to a deeper place as a competitive athlete. Um, when I started watching it, I first looked at it as, oh, it's just another K drama. I'm gonna probably have the same story. It's gonna have a person and another person. They're gonna have something in common. They're gonna fall in love, and there's gonna be some little trials and tribulations along the way with them, right?
Yeah.
Not the case with this one for me. So
Not really the case.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Very, very different in formulation.
yeah,
And something else I would point out is that like the plot, the side plots are disconnected from each other. So this is something that maybe I won't go into too much right now,
yeah,
but every character has their own challenges and
yes,
they help each other during the sort of good parts of it, but I think a lot of them try to deal with their challenges by themselves.
exactly. So weightlifting fairy Timbuktu was or is a K drama about athletes, competitive athletes, um, trying to make their next level step to go into like a Team USA, a national title, whatnot,
A
the
professional
Olympic
team
team.
or
Yeah,
a sponsored corporate team, yeah.
exactly. So they go through this. So there's a swimmer, the main character, weightlifter, and a gymnast. Now, you wouldn't think that they are connected somehow. So, but they are. Throughout the story, you find out that the gymnast who came back from her trial, uh, I guess I want to say she didn't really make the grade because she's getting older. She has physical problems and stuff. So she's back to the university where the swimmer and Kim Bakchu go. And she's dealing with her own demons. She broke up with the swimmer. He and her were an item. And so, she comes back and he is sort of liking Timbuktu because there's this kind of cover story where Timbuktu was in love with his older brother that she didn't know was his older brother who ran a weight loss clinic. Now she is a weightlifter, and if anybody has lifted weights and been in that um, area, you know that weightlifters have this stereotype that they love to eat. They eat, they put on weights so they can go into an upper level to lift more weights. Swimmers, they have to maintain their weight, and gymnasts have to lose weight. So all of these people are trying to figure out how to maintain that, and they take different steps. Um, and each of these characters are going through depression, anxiety, bulimia, self-harming, and a little bit of body dysmorphic disorder. So we'll talk about that. What those are. But in this story, There's also women, the two women, especially Timbuktu, who is starting to like guys. And you know, the adage is here that weightlifters, female weightlifters or female athletes in general, are not considered, and I don't want to say this word, but beautiful or pretty by normal standards, because we're sweating, we're doing physical activity. So the outside world doesn't see us as, you know, the model on the cover of or the model on I was going to say GQ, but that's for men. I guess you could be on the cover of GQ if you're a woman.
You could.
But like the Sports Illustrated bathing suit edition, or what was it? You don't see those people on the covers. And that's pretty much what all of these the two women athletes are handling. On top of, now let's just put more pressure on top of these athletes. Individual pressure of making the crew and staying on top of their game, being misunderstood, feeling abandonment issues, wanting to please everybody, then having family who gave up everything, their dreams, so these people could have a lifestyle that the family wanted, coaches having a say in how they conduct their life, and teammates, even though they mean well, put pressure on them to stay on their game too. So that's a lot of what I saw in this, and I was very drawn to this because there has been many times in my paddling career and even high school sports that I played that I felt all of that. Anxiety, depression, sometimes eating disorder now, and to an extent eating disorder. There were times when I would just skip meals, but then there were like days where I would just binge eat a lot of stuff because I was hungry and I didn't care. I didn't take it to the ends that the gymnast did. And so some of these people in the Kdrama, the characters, they get help. They really do get help. Others just deal with it on their own, which is neither good or bad. I mean, whatever works for you. But I think the key theme about this Harlan, this Kdrama, was that athletes are human. They're not gods, even though society has kind of put them in that light, that they are the untouchables. They're gods. You have to treat them as such. And, I just wanted to put out there that there are many professional athletes who have been very open recently. So I'm just going to name off a few if you would like me to, if we have time.
Yeah, no, I'd love to hear some of that. I think it's important to highlight when people have disclosed their sort of psychological battles that they're going through. I think it's important that people know that this happens and that it's something that it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. You can get help. You can not get help. But you should be aware that this can happen to literally everybody at different points in their lives.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to name a few, there was Michael Phelps. He came out. He had depression, anxiety, a little bit of substance abuse. Amanda Beard, another swimmer who had bulimia, clinical depression, and she was very adamant that she did self-harm. They didn't go past that. They just said self-harm. Quarterback Terry Bradshaw, clinical depression. Dorothy Hamill, a figure skater, depression. Nadia Komovic, the Olympic gymnast, had an eating disorder. And Christy Amato, I think her name is, an elite athlete in weightlifting, had body dysmorphic disorder and an eating disorder. So let's touch upon about the body dysmorphic order. From what I've read, it is somebody or an individual who believes that a part of their body or parts
an
or
aspect
part
of their appearance,
of their body is what's hindering them from making them perfect. So like as a paddler, if I said, oh, I don't like my right arm because it's 2 inches longer than my left, it's the problem why I can't do a certain thing, so we blame that. So
but the disorder part of it is that your arm actually isn't that much longer, or like
exactly,
or like you have this belief that your muscles aren't large enough, right? I'm not strong enough, I'm not big enough. Apparently this is very common in men, and so, or more common in men.
I mean, and like I said, getting back to the pressures of social pressures of the family and coaches, that comes with the territory, because they want you to be at your best and you want to be at your best, so they're trying to align their selves with your goals. But unfortunately, teammates, they try to come from a good place, but it doesn't ring with me, and it doesn't ring true to a lot of people.
What do you mean?
I'll give you an example. So I'm very close to a person on my team, and I usually sit next to her. And this past Sunday, we were in a mixed boat, mixed crew, trying to figure out the how the seating arrangement's going. And I was getting called out for rushing, which is, typical for me, but
that's typical. That's
typical
normal
for me.
I get called out for rushing as well now.
But
I didn't used to, but now I'm that guy.
You're that guy.
I'm that guy. I'm like, we gotta go faster.
Welcome to the club, dude. We meet every Sunday after practice.
Well, I think it's good, because I used to be called out for not meeting the pace, and I would be like, oh, I gotta stop. Like when I started, I was not capable of keeping the pace. Now I'm like, at least it shows that I'm at a physical capability level, and my reflexes are to the point where I'm like, oh, I'm able to go faster than everybody else now is going, and it's like, dude, they're not going that. They're not. It's not that they're not going faster because they can't.
You're on the opposite spectrum, dude.
They're not going faster because they shouldn't.
They shouldn't.
So
so she I took that advice, and then so I didn't get called out until halfway through practice. So I mean, I was cool. I was like, oh, hey, he's not calling on me, I'm good, I'm invisible. And then I got called out a couple of times, right? And I know this person meant well, and she goes, if you don't fucking fix this, I don't know what to do, because you need to fucking fix it now. And I'm like, fix what? You need to get your head together, because we need you. You really want this? Your seat's going to be given up. And I know she meant well. I know what she was trying to do, but it worked reversely. It was like, I don't fucking care about my seat. My time is my time. My time trial is my time trial. I'm not going to retrial just because, you think I should be at a level where you think I should be, and so I didn't say anything, but it was in the back of my mind. And then that just took me back to where, people are like, well, you're a very strong paddler. You need to be. You're always going to get top crew. You're always going to do this. And I'm like, dude, just because I'm a strong paddler and get a semi good time, that doesn't mean I have to be on every top crew. I said, I already know I'm on a top crew for something else. I don't need that extra pressure to bust my ass to get on another crew or mixed crew or whatever crew they're putting together. It would be icing on the cake, but if I'm okay with just being on where I'm at now, then you should be. So it kind of worked. That's what I'm saying about teammates and pressure.
Mhm.
They mean well, but they don't know the talks that you've had with your mentors and your coaches who are really close to you, who actually take the time out to listen to you. Some coaches don't care. They'll just like, get your ass in gear. You're going to do this. You're going to be on this crew. Stay there. Other coaches, they take the time to understand. And that's what I love about and our coaches, like Michael, Zoe, even Alan, Steve, Karen, even Red. They actually take the time out to ask you if you're okay. Like before every OC1 race or OC6 race or even Dragon Boat race, like a couple of days before we were to leave for the location that we were, Red would be like, we would hop in his car or go Starbucks or whatever. And he would be like, how are you feeling? You know, how are you feeling mentally? How are you doing? What are you feeling? And I would be like, and I would be honest, I'd be like, fucking tired. I'm fucking tired of people, you know, saying that I'm your favorite. I'm fucking tired of people saying that, oh, I'm just on this crew because, and he goes, you can't listen to that because you put in the work. Your work is showing. He goes, those naysayers, fuck them. Those people who are talking negative, fuck them. They don't know the work that you put in. He goes, the people who matter are the people coming up to you and saying, dude, I wish I was like you. How do I do that? Get your ass in the gym, get your ass on the water. So it's stuff like that, which is so different from just a coach. Like a coach to me is somebody who does that. Somebody who yells at me and gets my ass moving. Okay, yeah, I'm going to do what you want, but you got to be a true coach. You have to understand your players, and I
Yeah,
think,
yeah, definitely.
and I think the coaches, especially the weightlifting coach, he understood his crew in this Kdrama.
Yeah, yeah. Back to Kim Bok-ju
Yeah,
and her
the
weightlifting coach. He
yeah,
he did get it.
he did get it. Yeah, which is nice. The gymnastics coach and the swimming coach
They
did
were
not get it.
abusive. Yeah, the swimming coach actually I don't remember. So the swimmers had like a team captain that was kind of the villain. I don't think we
Yeah,
actually saw the team coach that much. The team captain was kind of fulfilling that role of the team
yeah,
member who's like you know actually he was more like you're not good enough. You're
yeah,
never going to make it. You're
yeah,
trash.
yeah,
You can't start. Because
yeah,
the swimmer, he had an issue where he would have a tinnitus attack, a
yes,
stress attack, and he would not be able to hear the starting gun
yeah.
during races, and so he would be a half a second behind everybody off the block,
Or he would have a false start.
or he would have a false start. Right? Yeah. So the but I liked that they had those different aspects of different roles and sort of negative and also positive folks in there. And the I also liked so there were actually two weightlifting coaches. There was an assistant coach. There was a lady who was a little bit smaller, and her role was to kind of be the sacrificial person. So
Yeah,
she ended up losing her job because she she took some funds that she should not have taken in order to help one of the team members in a way that she should not have.
Yeah. And as coaches, how many times have we done that, Harlan?
I don't usually embezzle, but that is
No,
because
but
I'm
yeah. No, but like I'm not
I
I'm
don't
not
usually embezzle, but when I do,
I
when I
don't get
do, I don't
caught.
get caught.
No, I mean you understand what I'm saying. Like how many times has and I'm gonna bring this back to paddling and we can go back to the Kdrama, but how many times as paddling coaches, have we come out of pocket for things? And we don't
Yeah.
it's not because they've asked us to
No.
or something. We do it because we want our paddlers not to worry about stuff, especially the kids. Like there are times when I've come out of pocket for snacks and taking people home because it's just what we do because we want to see them succeed.
Or having
And
extra equipment and stuff like that. Like I've got more equipment than anyone really needs, but
yeah,
other people can use my equipment, and that's great,
yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. And that's what we do. um and it's part of being a coach, and because we've been there too, we've been there where we've known that coaches have come out of pocket for us, so it's just the cycle. But getting back to the Kdrama, that gymnast coach, I'm pretty sure that is probably true to form, getting the scale out, telling them to lose weight, it's and
I
I hate that.
unfortunately it looked 100% believable. I'm not I I've never been a gymnast, but you can see from the physiques of the gymnasts that are
Yeah.
in college level or even under college level, or even these sort of high level amateur things, they have strict body control, and
it's it's
it
not it's it's not fair. I really don't think in a sport you should not have to have that strict of a diet. I am
well,
lucky.
I wonder about that for gymnasts because of the safety in so all right. Story about me.
Really, story
Story
time.
about me. My weight fluctuates, right? So I'll go up, 5 or 10 pounds, and I'll go down 5 or 10 pounds. When that happens to me, I will become slightly unbalanced, and then I will start running into stuff like walls or doorways, stuff like that, and I'll be like, why am I like suddenly not entirely balanced? Now imagine that you're like 105-pound girl who is maybe 5'3",
Mhm.
maybe on the outside, like, and then your weight goes up 5%, and then you've got to spin in the air like three
Mm.
times before you land. That actually creates quite a change in your rotational stability,
Mm.
right? So I kind of get it. Like if I was doing that, I would want to maintain a consistent weight. I
Mhm.
would want to maintain a consistent weight. I don't know if I would want to like push myself to the extent where like I'm developing an eating disorder.
Yeah, and unfortunately in that sport, I would think it would be very prevalent in that sport
I would
because
think
that
so.
looks
Yeah.
that looks like a sport that would do it. Um, I can tell you from when I was busting my butt, trying to be on that club crew that was supposed to go to France. I worked out for damn near 2 years straight, very little rest, was making sure that I was only eating about 15 to 1800 calories, because apparently that is my perfect numbers right there.
That's your range where you can
That's where my range,
hit your
where,
workout goals.
and it's funny because when we tried to bump up my calories to 2100 to 2500, I put on about 5 to 6 pounds, which was, I hated. I hated that because at my lightest I was 206. So I started at like 269, 270, and I got down to 206 in 2 years, which, I mean, I was in shape. I was eating right, drinking a lot of water, but the pressure of just, and the anxiety, I would say the anxiety of every time that I had to get on a scale every 4 weeks sucked, because I wouldn't eat for like 2 days. I would either drink water, you know, and just fast for 2 days before my weigh-in. And it would be like, oh, you lost a half a pound when I was supposed to lose, like a pound or two.
Right,
And
right, right.
and that fucked me up mentally. And so I but I understood why. I understood why, because I was doing more paddling. I was paddling 6 days a week, you with usually 2 to 3 hours of paddling every single day,
Really?
except on Fridays.
Wow. That's a
So
lot.
so I was hungry.
Yeah.
I
You,
was hungry.
yeah, you would have been really hungry.
So I would just binge on, I would eat my diet of egg whites and spinach and mushrooms and garlic in the morning with very few uh, carbs in it.
Yeah.
Drink water, drink black coffee. But I know after practice at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at OC practice, I would get out of the boat, change my clothes, drive right down to Mexican restaurant, and I was like, I need some protein. So I would order
Carnitas.
carnitas, surf and turf burrito.
Hmm.
But then I wouldn't eat it for like another week or two. So it was always trying to fuel that fire of not being so hungry that I wanted to kill people, but not eating too much where I felt that there was that I would put on weight.
Yeah.
So that was the mental. That was
Yeah.
my thing. So that's what I go through every time that I know that I'm on top crew. That's what I go through as a woman. That sucks.
Well, yeah, it does. I have similar experience, not necessarily because I was trying to get into shape for sports, but
Mm-hmm.
because I was trying to get into shape for medical reasons.
Yeah.
So, like I topped out at 225,
Mm.
230. No, I probably topped out at 230. Cuz yeah. And I went all the way down to 180, I think, at one point. So I lost about 50 pounds in probably like a year. And I I had a number of strategies that I use, but the strategy I use right now is similar to keto. It's called the Matrix. It's like Dr. Gundry's thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
but I'm very loosely on it. But I
Mm-hmm.
have. It's not really about. For me, the difficulty with hanging on to a consistent diet has to do with the world around me and my environment a lot more so than and my activities and things I do with my family primarily
Mm-hmm.
than it does with um, stuff like urges, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like my like if I go out and we go to a sushi restaurant. I have sushi. I'm not supposed to eat a lot of rice. I can have a little bit of rice, right? Like, you know, if you're eating properly, you can have a little bit of whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
But like, I'll go to sushi. I'll have sushi. I'll have a sushi feast, baby. It's
You
like
enjoy it.
I will enjoy that sushi. But again, it's like that's not the problem. The problem is when I get home and there's a bunch of food there that other people have bought,
Mm.
or like or there's like, you know, fried chicken in the fridge. Again, I'm not buying the fried chicken most of the time, right? Fried chicken and kimchi and and if those things are around, it's far more difficult for me to maintain my sort of fighting
Mhm.
my fighting weight, if it, as
Yeah.
it were, right? My competitive weight should probably be 185 to 190,
Mhm.
right? And I'm gonna get back there, but like I need to be able to balance. I need to be able to balance my ability to keep tabs on a healthy pattern of eating,
Mhm.
right? With also being able to do all the social things I want to do, and that's the hard part for me. I don't know if the challenge is the same for other people, but and then there's also the people who are like, "Why are you so skinny?" I'm like, "Oh, really, really?" I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't like people who say, "Why are you so skinny? Why are you so fat? Why are you so big? Why are you so round?" I don't like like telling me I'm skinny doesn't like make any freaking sense
Yeah.
when I have like the times when people have told me I was too skinny, I was in the best shape of my life in terms of cardiovascular health, strength, agility, speed, and my diet was really, really solid also,
Mhm.
and my blood tests were coming back good. And I'm like,
Mhm.
and humorously, it's probably because they'd never seen me look like that.
Mhm.
Humorously is because like I was at the high end of a proper BMI,
Mhm.
and I had probably still too much weight in my abdomen, right? So
Mhm.
abdominal health is really abdominal
Yeah.
health for man particularly is the biggest marker for um, cardiovascular problems, right?
Mhm.
So people think I'm skinny because I have skinny legs and skinny arms,
Mhm.
but what really matters is how much fat is inside your chest cavity and
Yeah.
inside your belly, right? Because that constricts the activity coming through your arteries and your veins, and it causes cardiovascular problems, right? So
Yeah.
so like you can't just look at someone and figure out if they're healthy. Like they could
Yeah.
have a perfect BMI and they could have really, really bad internal fat deposits,
Yeah.
right? So there's all these factors that go into it, and like I don't know, pet peeve of mine. I just wanted to vent for a little bit.
Well, no, I mean it's good because I am on the opposite spectrum. Like, so I had to get healthy. Not I had to lose weight, not only for health reasons because I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. My father had heart issues. He died of a heart attack.
Yeah,
There
my
was
my
cancer.
dad also.
Yeah.
My dad died of
So
a stroke.
yeah, so all of these, all the, the gout, everything, whatever thing that you could think of, I was at risk for.
Yeah.
So I got in shape. And people like you, people were telling me, "Oh, you look great. You're awesome. You got muscles." And so, and all I would see in the mirror in the gym, um, I would see the the fat hanging off because I was losing weight. And I'd be like, I'm still fat. I'm still fat. That was in my mind. Yeah, you can say that I'm, you know, losing weight and looking good, but to me, I'm still fat because I didn't reach
Yeah.
my goal weight of 190, you know. And so that really fucks with somebody's mental um their mental capacity. And it's, there it's a never losing ending battle. You cannot you're not going to win it. So you just have to be doing it for you and not for other people,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
kind of
And
happened.
you have to keep an eye on your interactions with others, with your work, with your teammates, with whoever it is that's important to you, right?
Yeah,
So so if you see that something is becoming a problem, or maybe even before that, consider getting counseling. Consider getting either psychological counseling or counseling from a doctor. I don't know if doctors do a really good job about this unless they specialize in weight loss.
yeah,
I would really talk to a psychologist,
yeah,
and kind of find someone that you trust and go to them and talk to them about it if you need assistance. And the people you care about, some of them are going to get it and some of them are not,
yeah, because you don't want
unfortunately,
to,
because a lot of
you don't know.
folks grow so folks grow up in different circumstances, and their challenges are not your challenges. And so
Mm-hmm.
I have found that sharing challenges with other folks who have not been there, it's not always something that they can talk about sympathetically. And so,
Wait, I mean, yeah, because you're always going to so there's two ways you can control this: your diet and your mental outlook, right? And they have two opposite spectrums. You can control the calories by your intake, taking fewer calories or binging or purging, which I do not recommend at
no,
all,
no.
or you work out more, but you eat a healthy diet, right? And mentally, with the mental, you, like you said, find people who you can trust, you can talk to, who will be your support system. Because on the other side of that, you're gonna self isolate, you're gonna self doubt, you're gonna self question.
Yeah. I would
You know?
also do some serious research and find out what we mean when we say a healthy diet, right?
Yes.
So obviously there are levels to this, but some of the worst offenders out there are sugars of any type, and sugars get hidden in everything. So we're not just talking. I'm not just talking about sugar. I'm talking about agave sweetener and high fructose corn syrup and syrups of any type, right? Condensed
Carbohydrates, they turn into sugar.
carbohydrates turn into sugar, right? But you can't. You may not need to go all the way to like a keto diet.
Yeah.
Some people, especially young people, don't need to do that because their bodies haven't reached that stage where they're like insulin resistant yet. So, like trying to keep balance in your diet and
Mm,
is is really important, especially when you're young. Then your body won't become out of balance, and you won't kind of swing to the sort of
yeah.
your body reacts to food, and the
Yeah.
more you kind of push it to its limits, the harder it is. This is essentially what insulin resistance is, right,
Yeah.
for diabetics.
Yeah.
So but it happens not just for insulin, it happens for all different kinds of hormones and things like that in your body. Whenever you push something too hard, it can break, or it can become tired, and it doesn't
Yeah.
walk back as fast. And so just
Yeah.
be careful. Get get educated, especially about the kinds of things you can eat, and eat lots of vegetables. Vegetables are great. I'm not talking
But
about potatoes,
there,
but
there's some vegetables that you might want to not go, but
yeah.
get professional help, seek out nutritionists, seek out,
Yeah.
talk to your doctor. Um,
I would say nutritionist before a doctor. Most
yeah.
doctors are, and I have talked to doctors about this. Most
Okay.
doctors are shit when it comes to nutrition. They are not trained in it, most of them. The ones I have talked to who are like nutritional experts go out and do their own research. They have their own, um It's basically a side hustle for them,
Okay.
like, because it's not taught in medical schools.
Yeah.
So I would
So go get a
go
referral.
get a nutritionist. Yeah,
Go
start
get a
with
referral.
someone who knows what they're doing.
so so along with the physicality, women athletes, like I said, don't feel womanly
Hmm.
because, and that's, that has to do with mental health too. Um, so I don't know how we fix that problem. I really don't.
I think
So
that's a I think that's a problem that is outside of the athletic community. Actually, I think
mhm.
that's a problem in the cultural zeitgeist, I guess. It's a media problem. It really is a media problem. I
Yeah.
think that as a young man, as a young man, growing up in the 80s and starting to become aware of the opposite sex, I can say this. I was pushed by the media toward fetishizing women who were blonde, had large breasts and long hair, and were medium height and fairly skinny. And that was, or not fairly skinny. I would say like on the voluptuous side of skinny, I guess. I don't know. Um, Basically, you're sort of late 80s supermodel type. That was what I was being pushed toward liking. And if you had asked me when I was 13, 14 years old, that's probably what I would have told you I liked in a woman.
Mhm.
And I can, and that was not me. Let's just say that was not me. That was 100% me, just like seeing people in media, in movies and television, giving me a way to think about it. And I know, because I had that experience, that even to this day, my image of like what beauty is shadowed, is encouraged by the people around me, the media I consume.
Mhm.
But it's very different today. Like I
Mhm.
have a very different outlook on what I believe is beautiful. So
So you kind of partially touched upon this when but I'm going to ask you, as a man now, as a 40 something year old man.
oh, I'm old, almost 50 old man.
Okay, as a almost 50 old man, not as an athlete, but what is your take on women athletes, and do you find them attractive now? Forget about the 13-year-old the
Yep.
man sitting right now in front of me. What is your take?
So
I've always wanted to ask a man this question
yeah,
anyway.
yeah, and I think it's important to talk about stuff like this. So there's there's different aspects to deciding whether or not you find someone attractive, right? So for
Mhm.
me, there's that shallow, like, oh my gosh, she's hot, right? I'm straight, so yeah. It, every now and then I'll be like, oh, he's hot. Maybe I'm 90% straight. but
We
but
have to. We're not going to test that theory
we're
out.
not going to worry about that part. It's fine. I'm not interested in testing that. But and so when I think that, almost always that is a sort of shallow, just sort of like, oh wow, that's a pretty person, I guess. But I doubt that I doubt that I am aware at that point of what sport that person does. Like someone's walking down the street or something like that. Um, but I can say this: if someone is particularly skinny and looks like they can't hold themselves up if they like tripped and fell on the ground. If they look like they would just like sort of clatter into a jumble of bones when they fell, I, I find that very off-putting. Um, like that's it's not attractive to me at all. Um, I find that as I'm getting older, I'm appreciating women who have more flesh, like who can actually like carry a boat on their shoulders.
Yes.
it, there is a there's actually a study that came out probably a year ago that I thought was really interesting. Actually, maybe it's older than that. I don't. Time is weird these days. I'm sorry I don't have it as a reference, but it was basically this sort of comparison and contrast between women and men, and as far as like what the women thought men would find attractive and what men actually found attractive. And so they were just rating people photographs of women, and the women were like going, "Oh, she's hot, she's a supermodel." Men would rate her a 10, right? Oh, she's ugly, she's not, she's too fat or too boring looking or whatever. Men would rate her a 1, that sort of thing. Apparently, the women on this were like cutting. They were like
vicious. We are so vicious, dude.
They got out the box cutters, and they're like, I deal with a lot of cardboard.
That is scary that you just had that right there, dude.
No, I deal with a lot of cardboard, so I keep it in my mug, my Boba Fett mug. So like, yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, the ladies were pretty cutting, but the men, interestingly, they were like remarkably sort of welcoming, and you can remarkably like approving of almost all the women. It was kind of like, well, yeah, there are some that are hotter than others, but like very few of them got rated very poorly. And so there was this sort of general kind of acceptance from men that women are going to look different from each other, but they all are appealing in their own ways, right? So for me, looking at someone who is a athlete, I appreciate most athletic body types, but there are some that I find a little bit disconcerting, right? So like gymnasts, for example, I find a little bit disconcerting, and I think that people in general probably would think that, oh, well, gymnasts, they're small and light and flexible, and so and generally they're pretty young, so like men would find that attractive. And it's like, I don't know, I find it a little bit creepy because they're young and they look very small, and I know they're strong, and that's not the issue, right?
No.
It's not the strength so much as it is like this weird sort of how old are you?
Are you old enough to drink?
Are you old enough to drink? And then there's the sort of like, I'm on the cover of Shape magazine. Like you're like you cut your body fat down to almost 3 or 4% for that photo shoot. That I will say this: the men are far scarier looking than the women when they do that. I don't think the women do it as aggressively, and so it if you saw those people walking down the street, you'd be like, "Oh, she's pretty," because she's not taking a photo shoot and she just hasn't like starved herself and not drunk water for like 2 days, right?
So I don't know. Like, have you seen some of the Russian women bodybuilders, man? They're good.
I haven't actually. I didn't watch this. Yeah, no. So in general, I feel like an athletic woman is more fun, right? Maybe that's just because I'm interested in like certain athletic endeavors,
Yeah.
like paddling or hiking or whatever like that. Like if there's something that you can do with another person that's outdoors, or that's like biking or whatever, even just like going to amusement parks, which is something I love, right? Like I like people who can go out and do stuff with me, right? And I don't know. I've found that as I got older, I'm a lot less shallow in my determinations of who's pretty and who's not than I was when I was young. And even when I was young, I was probably more attracted to people that I shouldn't be attracted to than I was comfortable with,
Mm.
because society says you shouldn't be. And it's like, well, why not? Like, that's dumb. Like, I don't. Yeah. So athletic, non-athletic is like, I'd probably prefer someone who's more athletic, but I think the reasons for that are like, I'm looking for someone who's healthy. I'm looking for someone who's, capable, tough. Like, I like tough people, right? I don't like people who are quiet, or or hold themselves back, or like use a lot of uh childlike noises. And I don't know how to explain this. There's a tendency, I think, in Asian culture, particularly in, since we were talking about like Kim Bok
Yeah.
Joo,
Yeah.
Kim Bok Joo herself, the character, she's very gruff. She's tall. She's lanky. She's got a deep voice, if I remember correctly. She's like, uh, she's aggressive and fun and outgoing, when she's not depressed, right?
Mhm.
And she ends up being a lot more attractive than these sort of quiet, reserved, high pitched voiced girls that are doing the gymnasts, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, who's more welcoming, right? Who's gonna take care of you? Who's gonna be more fun to hang out with? You know,
Mm.
Kim Bok Joo
Who's
was by far the most attractive of those people, not because she was the prettiest, but because her character was the most inviting.
who's gonna
So
bring you some fried chicken?
yeah.
She is.
So
But no.
but and this brings me to my favorite question, which is the, and what about you, Naya? Because and I think this is great because um K dramas, part of the reason why I love watching K dramas is that I can watch them with my wife, and she loves some of these guys. Like, she loves some of these guys. They are hot. And I get that. But so talk to me about athletic versus non-athletic guys, and what are you attracted to the guys that are the hot guys in these shows? Like, and maybe talk about the difference between like a flower boy, which is some of these like pretty boy, flower boy is the term for the
Uh,
pretty boy actors who are sort of very youthful, early to mid 20s kind of folks. Typically they're like K-pop style looks with
mm,
the hair
the
and
emo
the
hair.
talk to me about the difference between them and like some of the guys in that are in
like
more of the sort of action oriented shows.
Vincenzo, or what's the one that we watched with the curator there. So me, athlete, non-athlete, it it really doesn't matter to me as long as I can have fun with them.
Mm.
That's why I think I was relating to Kim Bok Chu so much, because like you said, she says what's on her mind. She doesn't care. She's she's her, and you're just gonna accept that. Although there are times when she questions, is she pretty or not? Why should she, she has to keep her relationship a secret, all this stuff. So, and it's just like me. I'm I'm pretty rough around the edges. I say whatever I say whatever I want.
You're smooth, smooth, like a heart symbol.
I'm smooth like a porcupine, baby. But I mean, I think that's why I related to her so much because she did go through that. But for me, if a guy is athletic, great. Just like you, I can go out and we can have a good time. We can go in the water, go hiking, go do whatever, amusement rides. Just have fun. Um, Non-athletic guy too. I'm cool. You want to sit and watch football? I can do that. You want to go to the movies? We can do that. Whatever is cool. So, do I want somebody who is athletic versus non-athletic? I think as long as they are happy with themselves, that's all that matters. Now, the flower boys, the K-pop stars, not my cup of tea. I'm not really into that. It just doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't attract to me because, okay, first of all, I hate to say this, but some of them you're wearing more makeup than me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't do that. I can't do that.
They
I
do
can
have they do have very, very smooth complexions.
I can appreciate the time that you put into it, but I can't I just can't get with it.
What's a quick side note there? They wear so much makeup that at times I find it difficult to differentiate between people, especially if they're cutting quickly between people. Like
Yes.
it's, and I never realized before how much you can differentiate between people based off of skin tone, like tonal differentiations in a person's face. Um, like the the uniformity of the makeup in some K dramas, not all of them, but some K dramas, I find disconcerting because like it's almost like they're plastic toy people.
Yeah. It's not attractive to me. Um so like the main character in Vincenzo, the actor who played him, and the actor who played Ryan Gold. Ryan Gold.
Ryan
Ryan
Gold, yeah,
Ryan Gold, or the Lion. Um
the lion, Ryan the Lion Gold.
Gold. Those two characters I find attractive. Those men I find attractive. First, because the actor who plays Vincenzo is exuding or commanding respect. He doesn't waver. He just stands for what he believes in, right?
Hmm.
So I find that a very attractive quality, no matter if the man is, you know, athlete or not. With Ryan Gold, the actor who played him, very well proportioned in the face. He's got that chiseled face, that chiseled body too. I'm like,
Oh, he's got a chiseled body. He's ripped.
yeah. So I'm just like, all right, I can get with you, even though you're not what I would typically go for. I can appreciate the physique, the time that you put into your body. Yeah. So the flower boys, not my style. Uh, Vincenzo and Ryan Gold, my style. My style. I would
Okay.
just say this.
So have I got a treat for you coming up? I've got a couple of treats for you coming up.
Ryan Gold, is he going to make an appearance on the show?
Oh yeah, he might come back. He might come back. But no,
yeah, so
there's another one that I'm thinking of recommending to you, and of course I'm blanking on what it's called right now, but it's another, basically a show about um, exercise and health,
okay.
and I and yeah, the guys in it are hot. You're
I
kind of
mean,
hot. You're kind of hot.
so my kind of hot is like I like. Okay, so I'm not going to beat around the bush. Anybody who knows me is I like my type of man is I if my ideal man is English. I love English men. I've never been to England, but I love Englishmen. I love English comedies. It's something about Monty Python, I guess, just kind of just got into me when I
Just
was young.
little squirreled into your brain.
So that has been my type of guy, and obviously Huey Lewis with his chiseled. When he was younger, he looked like a movie star, so that kind of got into me too. So I never really saw any guys who were Samoan um, in the media, you know, besides my dad, and that would just be creepy. Uh,
Yes, agreed.
so,
Agreed.
so, so, like media told me, hey, here's what guys should look like. Here's what you should like, and so I always went for the older, sophisticated guys, not for the younger guys. So, I mean, choices are choices, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's that. Um, so I know you said your take on women athletes. So what advice would you give to women athletes who feel unattractive from a man's point of view?
So two things. The first would be, don't let a man define you. Fuck them. If
That's
they,
always
I
good.
don't mean literally have sex with them. I mean,
That might happen.
I mean, if a guy gives you shit for how you look and you're an athlete, that person is trash, and disassociate yourself from that person, right? Find people to hang out with who make you feel like you're having fun, who make you feel attractive, who make you feel worthy, right? If you feel unattractive and it's sort of like, but you're still hanging out with people who value you, talk to a counselor. If you feel unattractive and part of the reason is because of the toxic people around you, disassociate yourself. And if that means finding a new coach, a new trainer, you may have to do that. I'm talking about this from the sort of athletic point of view, right?
Yeah.
And I guess same advice for guys, right? Same advice
Mm-hmm.
for guys, but particularly for women, I would say this: if you are a woman, men are going to find you attractive. You may not think so, but be aware that guys just aren't that choosy. They're not.
Hmm.
They're just not.
I find that fascinating.
It's people will, so what you see in the media is not reality.
Mm-hmm.
What you see in the media is not reality. When you hear about if you're a woman and you go out on, I invest in, and we're going to talk about investing a little bit later, but I invest in both Bumble and Tinder,
Ooh.
or Match.com. Match is
Okay.
the Match is the corporate head that includes Tinder, Match.com, and a number of other dating type sites.
Okay.
And then Bumble is the sort of smaller upstart trying to challenge them, from a women's management point of view, right? So it's
Oh,
managed by
okay.
a woman CEO, and they're trying to take an alternative path, giving women more control on the site. If you go out on Tinder, though, I can assure you, as a woman, you will be well placed for matches. Your guys are just
Hmm.
not that. Guys are desperate. guys are looking for. Guys are not out there looking for a particular um, beauty standard necessarily. What they're looking for is comfort and attention and a feeling of worth.
Are you
If
going to get
you
your guy card pulled? Is your guy card going to be pulled if you give out secrets now?
I, I read a lot of psychological research because it's interesting to me. So there's a huge disconnect between what you see on television or in the movies about how people value each other and what the real world is like. How, like if you are a young person and you're like an athlete and you feel like you're unattractive, take a step back for a moment and like look at the old people around you. Look at people who are over 70 and ask yourselves, why are these people still in a loving relationship? Is it because the guy thinks the girl's really hot now? No. Are you fucking nuts? Like I don't like I'm about to turn 50 and I didn't all of a sudden go, "Oh, like hot people don't exist who are 20 years old anymore." Yeah, of course they do. That's not that's not attractive anymore. Right? Like when I
You
was when I was 18, I found 20-year-old women fucking like all right. When I was 18, I found 20-year-old women incredibly intimidating, fantastically intimidating. If you were 1 or 2 years older than me, I would have been like, "Whoa." And then as I entered college, I started realizing, oh, wait a second, it's not that big a difference, right? And then I met my wife, who I started dating around the time I was 19, I guess, and or maybe 20. Whatever. I should know these things, but whatever.
you should. She's going to be upset.
I should know. It's okay. And she is older than I am, not by that much, but
Really?
I will tell you this, that over time, as I've become more comfortable with people in general, like it hasn't, like if I was a sophomore in high school, dating someone who was a junior would have been fucking terrifying. Terrifying.
I did not.
I, but as you get older and you start realizing that the differences between people are starting to like the the island that you live on
Yep.
is stupid, right? Like if you live on the sophomore high school boy island, it's a tiny little place. And as you start like going out into the real world and you start like actually dealing with people like by volunteering or working or whatever, like you're exposed to so many more people and you're like, "Oh, like I know someone who's 60 who's really awesome, and I know someone who's 15 who's really awesome." And I like all of a sudden I have friends who vary in age from like what 9 years old all the way up to like their 70s or 80s, right? People
Yes.
that I do stuff with,
Yeah.
right? And even younger if you count my coach's daughter, right? Who's
Yeah, I
only
was going
two,
to
right? So but like the band of sexual attraction is always, I think, going to appropriately be somewhat close to your own age,
say.
but it definitely widens as you get older. But what that means is that like the the reason why men or women are attracted to other people isn't because of the way they look alone. It may be an initial determinant of something, right? It may get you in your foot in the door, but it's not going to keep you in the house, right?
Oh, that's a good one. We're going to use that. I love that. I'm going to use
What
that quote.
keeps you there is the other things, right? Again, the ability to provide affection, emotional stability, appreciation for another person, humor, all those sorts of things. Like your attractiveness is not based entirely upon your body. That's, I hope, a hopeful message for those of you who are out there who are wondering about that. And unfortunately, oh my gosh, I was statistics, man. Statistics are going to kill you. Unfortunately, there are far more college educated women now than college educated men. And it's highly unlikely that a college educated woman is going to date is going to marry a non college educated man. Statistically, it is just not likely to happen. And so that's creating a problem, particularly here in the United States, but also abroad. And so, yeah, there's that. Women are having a harder time right now finding good, solid matches if your intention is to get married. Again, not something I can solve or help with. But I am voting for more money for education.
More money for education and more males getting
get these
in
young,
that upper division.
Yeah, exactly. Got to get these young guys their college degrees so that they can form loving households.
Well, maybe we'll have a shining, spark of inspiration and hope with intern Rigel there.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll see.
I think that we covered most of we didn't cover in paddling or any sports. Has there been a time that you've gotten that pressure? And how did you handle it? I think we kind of skipped over that part.
We did kind of skip over that part. I didn't do really any sports until I got into college. I tried out for various things and I was said, no, you're not good enough in high school. And so that was disheartening and annoying. Then in college, I joined a martial arts group. So I did karate, so Shotokan karate. I did that for about 10 years. And in karate, there are pressures, but not really about I mean, to some extent there is some competition in karate, but Shotokan particularly, at least when I was in it, was a fairly non-competitive sport. They were actually very much worried that they would be that they would lose their focus on Bushido. So the sort of the importance of the martial part of the martial art, right? They didn't want to lose their focus on Bushido. And there was a lot of discussion among them about what had happened to Taekwondo after it became an Olympic sport. It started getting ranked, and those pressures started mounting on it, right? So the idea in karate is that it doesn't matter who you are or what you have as far as physical capabilities, you can always increase those physical capabilities, right? And you can learn to punch, kick, grab, whatever. I mean, even if you like, I've even seen some folks who like do practice various martial arts, maybe not karate directly, but or what you would think of as karate, but they practice martial arts from a wheelchair or whatever, right? So like it's great to be able to do a sport that teaches agility and strength and all this stuff without a focus on with a focus on who you are already And so that was one of the things about karate that I found very welcoming. So we had tiny little women who would come into class, and then we would have really big guys who would come into class, like enormous guys, and both wide or tall, right? And then everybody in between.
Mm-hmm.
And there would be obviously kids doing it, because kids classes are always great for martial arts. And um, but the adults were this sort of motley crew of just weird folks. I think one guy was a bus driver, lawyer. There were a lot of folks with, like, one of my senseis was a pharmacist. um, I feel like there were a lot of professionals, a lot of folks with upper degrees. Obviously, karate is not something that you can do if you're fairly poor, because it costs money and time. Um, so it was sort of toward the higher economic end, but it was definitely welcoming to everybody. It didn't require. It actually wasn't that expensive. The expense was getting to it, right, and
Yeah.
having the time, right. So like you'd buy a gi, but like a gi costs less than a paddle. Right?
Oh, wow.
You could buy a good gi for 250, $260, and a paddle is going to be like 300 something. So
Three on up.
three on up, yeah. So anyway, but I don't feel like I felt that kind of pressure when I was in it. I did
Wow.
feel, I did feel like I wanted to try to keep myself at a healthy weight during
Mm-hmm.
it. But like almost never did our senseis talk about that in terms of like something we should do. They were always just focused um, on our training in dojo. And
Mm.
so then I really didn't do anything for a while, and then I found paddling. So yeah, my experience in paddling has been pretty. I don't know. I'm pretty guarded about my nutrition now, because in
Yeah.
between these two things, I had that
Yeah.
experience where I was trying to change my eating habits, and so I have a fairly solid idea of what I need to do now with my diet to maintain myself.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't let people who are like coaching me in sports anymore like talk to me about that. So I make that fairly clear, and like all of my coaches have been pretty good with it, as long as they're comfortable that I'm
Good.
actively
Yeah.
engaged in keeping it going.
Nice. Nice.
So yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
good experience for me, actually.
You've had a tame
I
experience
have,
since.
but I think it's because I didn't make any of those high school teams.
Yeah. You had. I was the total opposite. I was a freshman on varsity track. I was softball, always picked for softball for I was either the third or the second pick for softball teams
Hmm.
in the community. So there was a lot of pressure, even though I didn't know there was pressure at the time, but as I got older, there was a lot of pressure, and especially from the outside, not from my family, but from the outside, just like spectators saying, "Oh, well, you're Lofa's sister or you're Mosi's daughter. You must be good at this. You have to be good at this." So that the expectation, holding to that expectation and that pressure, I think, got to me, and that's carried on throughout my whole life. And it's just recently, within the last I would say 3 years after I tried out for club crew nationals,
Hmm.
we that I shed that, you know so I'm good, but I still put pressure on myself. So, oh well.
Well, I guess, I mean, some amount of stress, some amount of pressure is always good. It's the question of like, is it too much? right? Is it enough for me to be able to handle and still be healthy? And there's always that balancing act, because I mean, a life without stress is also a life without growth.
There you go.
Yeah, you write that on your chalkboard.
I like the house thing. I like the house thing. There you go. The house
Yeah,
quote.
yeah. Write that on
So,
the front door.
so tell us about your investing philosophy with this one, can you?
Yeah. So I wanted to bring out two things here, and one is, or maybe three things. So the first is comparing yourself to others. I think there's a tendency in people when they're asking themselves, "Am I attractive? Am I the best at this sport?" That you're comparing yourself to others, right? You're always going, "Oh, am I as good as this person? Am I as good as that person?" In investing is very dangerous to do that. Very, very dangerous.
Mm.
So think of, if you're thinking of yourself as a investor, I highly recommend you think about yourself not in terms of how you're comparing to other people, but in terms of how you're comparing to returns that you could get with very low effort, right? So, like,
Mhm.
Warren Buffett is a famous investor who's old and very well known, and everybody follows the things he says. And he's a wise dude. I mean, and I agree with him on a lot of things, and I read his writings, and I think there's a lot to learn from there. What you should not learn from Warren Buffett is, oh, he made 50 or 100% every year for the first like 20 or 30 years of his investing life. Why am I not doing that? You're in a different situation, in a different time. And I'll tell you this, Berkshire Hathaway, his company, not doing that anymore, right? It's a different world. And the skills that he had that got him to that place were set for a particular time, and he was very good at them, and he practiced a lot. Like, if you're an individual investor, comparing yourself to even your friend, right, who may be doing better than you at the market right now, is probably an invitation toward taking on risk that you may not be comfortable with, in the effort to kind of go, oh, I got to catch up, right? If you, it can be particularly dangerous if maybe you're watching these more aggressive investing type entertainment shows. Like, all right, so there's a there's Mad Money by Jim Cramer, right? I actually really respect Jim Cramer. He left the industry and exposed some of its problems with the money management, and went and created his own show. And I think he has a nonprofit kind of thing that he does. So, like, props to Jim, but his show, the content of it, if you just listened to the content of his show, if you were reading it on screen and you didn't see what he was doing, I think would be like, he's got a lot of wise nuggets. He talks about a lot of things. He has a very broad knowledge about a lot of different companies. Very, very sharp investor. However, like, his show is entertainment. He presses buttons, he's screaming and yelling, he's like doing all kinds of like kind of heads over heels kind of gymnastics on his show. And I'm like, look, that's entertaining and all. And I could try to emulate, like, try to take some advice from you, but trying to emulate that kind of frenetic activity in your portfolio, probably bad, right? Like, from a long-term buy and hold standpoint, you want to identify great companies, you want to buy more of them over time, and you just sort of keep doing that, right? And you sell if you need money, and like you like, it's boring, right? And comparing yourself to other people and what they might have done, like, oh my gosh, I made so much money in NFTs or in Bitcoin. Like I put I put like $50,000 into Bitcoin and now I'm a billionaire. It's like, well, all right, I wasn't comfortable putting money into Bitcoin. If you're not comfortable putting that much money into Bitcoin, you shouldn't put that much money into Bitcoin. Got to ask yourself, what's your objective, right? So, same as sports. If my objective is to hit club crew, what's my target weight? If my objective is to, be able to make a national team for Taekwondo, what's my target weight, right? What can I do to be healthy and get there with the assistance of my coach, my own training patterns, my own with healthy eating, right? Because your objective should not just be to make club crew or to make a national team.
Mhm.
Your objective should be living a healthy life for the rest of your life, right? You don't want to create a problem like an eating disorder now that will live so that you can get onto that club crew, so that you can, so that, yeah, you'll have that memory of being on the national team with the freaking like downhill skiing or whatever
Yeah.
your sport of choice is. But if you carry that like bulimia with you for the next 30 years,
Yeah.
uh, is it worth it? And you need to really like think about these things. And unfortunately, young people and coaches don't highlight the risks of doing stuff like this. And in investing, we often will pull out our little um, investing disclosure statement. It'll say things like, "Hey, don't invest money you can't lose. Make sure that you're
Hmm.
diversified." All those sorts of things. Like, remember that I own shares of this stock, so when I'm recommending it to you or talking about it, it comes from a point of I already have a financial interest in it. Like
Hmm.
the risks of investing, a lot of times people don't pay that much attention to them, and the main risks are actually psychological, and it's the same as these risks of like your risk of hurting yourself in a dragon boat training exercise is pretty low.
Yeah. I mean,
Pretty
if
low.
you pretty
I mean,
low, I mean,
you can strain your muscles. I mean like an ongoing injury, like developing an ongoing
oh
difficult
yeah,
injury.
yeah. You can
Um,
strain your arm. You can bruise your butt or tailbone if you slide off the seat,
I
which
guess you could.
I've almost done a couple of times.
So there are risks there, physical risks that you can highlight,
Yeah.
right? But there are also those psychological risks of like,
Hmm.
am I good enough? Am I developing, a poor self-image? Like all these sorts of things that we just don't talk about as much. And so, like in investment, you've got to think about these things like, what's my objective? Am I getting to my objective? Am I getting
Hmm.
there in a healthy way? Am I taking risks that are okay for me? And unfortunately, you're going to have to educate yourself about those things. Um, it's very difficult, even for a money coach, to. It's very difficult for someone to ask you the question, "What's your risk tolerance?" Almost
Hmm.
always, when you go on to a new investing site, they'll be like, "What's your risk tolerance?" And a lot of people will be like, "Oh, that's pretty risky. Not very high, I guess." And so they'll be like, "Well, let's stick you in bonds
Hmm.
where you can get like 3 or 4% returns for the rest of your life, and yeah, it's lower risk, I
Play it
guess."
safe.
But is that really what you want as an investor? Is that really getting? I have a whole thing where I talk about risk for the Activision thing. I kind of go through it, and one of the biggest risks in investing is not being able to balance fear and greed. And so some people will get too greedy and they'll invest in things that are too risky.
Hmm.
The other problem that's not talked about nearly as much, but I think is endemic in the United States, it's probably endemic worldwide, is not being greedy enough. And the word greed is very negative, but let's talk
Greed
about
is good.
let's talk about it like this: not being aggressive enough,
There
right?
you go. Yeah.
So if you take your investable assets that you can accumulate every year, let's say that you can save 10% of your paycheck, okay, or 6% of your paycheck, or whatever. Calculate that number, add that up, stick it in a spreadsheet, find out how much money that is, and then figure out, like, okay, if I'm compounding that interest, what am I going to be able to make at 3% or 4%, which is maybe bond rates,
Mm-hmm.
or 7 to 10%, which is historical S&P 500 return rates, or I could buy a NASDAQ 100 index, which has 100 NASDAQ stocks, and the historical return of the NASDAQ over the last 20 years, I think, is in the 12 to 13% range last time I checked. I think it may be 20 or 30 years. Um, like, okay. And those are almost zero effort because you can buy a bond fund. It's very, very low effort for you and just be done with it. Or you can buy an S&P 500 fund. Again, very low effort and be done with it. You can buy a NASDAQ 100 fund. Again, you're diversified with almost 100 stocks in it. And again, you can basically be done. Just add to that over time. Um, Now, mind you, you're not going to get these returns every year. Like an
Mm-hmm.
average of 13% might mean it loses 26% this year, right? So averages do not mean that you're going to get that all the time. You'll almost never get that performance. Investing in individual stocks is a little bit more challenging because you have to do a lot more work, right? You have to find out what those companies are. You have to get more information than you otherwise would. You have to build your own diversification path, and then you can mix and match all these things together, right? What I think a lot of people don't do is they'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid, I don't know, I'm just not going to try, and I'm going to follow what my investment advisor says. And I think a lot of investment advisors are afraid they're going to get sued, because if you throw your money in a NASDAQ 100 and it goes down, it'll go down a lot more than
Mm-hmm.
that bond fund. And so people are going to go into the bond fund and they'll be like, oh, it's moving a little bit, it's moving a little bit. And I'm never that afraid.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is when you get to your retirement, you're not going to have very much. You're going to have hardly anything. And you're going to be like, well, why can't I enjoy the things I used to do? And why do I still have to work? And you're not going to have as much financial freedom. So
So they're not
careful with
lifting
that.
that. So they're not lifting that weight, so to speak, off of them.
You know what they're not doing? You know how when you're weightlifting and you're lazy and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I know. Let's
Yeah.
say I can do a deadlift, right? And you're
Yeah.
like,
You're like,
I know I can lift 70 pounds, so
yeah,
I'm just gonna do 70 pounds right now. And you're like, oh,
yeah,
okay, I'm
yeah.
doing 70. It's fine. But to get gains, to actually improve,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to add more weight, right? You got to
Mm-hmm.
try 80. You've got to try 90. You've got to try 100.
You got to max out,
You got to
basically.
find out where your max is, and then you eat, you recover, and then you go again, and then you learn more, right? So you have to research, you have to find out what your personal tolerances are. You have to find out what you can accept,
Mm-hmm.
for both pain and gain of both investing and working out. And you want to do it safely, right? So
Yes.
so lack of education is crippling both in physical exercise and in investing.
Yeah.
So the other thing I want, two other things. One is like a topic that has its own, like I could do an entire show on it. I'm not going to talk about it that much. I'm just going to call it living below your means. If you have not heard of living below your means, look up LBYM. Lots of folks out on the internet talking about living below your means. What it basically means is trying to calculate how much money you're taking in and getting an idea of how much money you're spending out,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to keep a little gap. And that gap is money that you're saving and you're going to use to establish your financial stockpile that you can use for financial freedom. Living below your means is crucial to building a financial freedom, and it's even more vital if you have low income, because
So,
if you have low income, you need to have a screw off fund.
it's basically like calories in, calories out. Make sure you have enough reservation or in the reserve for your next activity, pretty much. Would
It's
you say?
not exactly the same. It's
Oh,
not
okay.
exactly the same. It's basically, so from a physiological standpoint, it means you need something here, right?
Ah,
So
okay.
from a physiological so living below, all right, so think about it like this. If you live paycheck to paycheck, what you are
Mhm.
essentially doing is you're living on 2 to 3% body fat. You're
Okay.
riding the edge. You are cutting it close. You are starving,
Mm.
right? What you want to be is calorie positive, right? You want to have enough calories in your system that you can store some fat, that you've got enough sugars in your system that you can walk around and have good brain activity, right? Living below your means is basically this idea that um, it's opposite, right? So from a fiscal standpoint, you want more fat.
Mm.
If fat is the sort of
Yeah.
extra energy, the extra money that you need, because aren't going to be you aren't going to be able to earn money if you're um, if you lose your job. You aren't going to be able
Hmm.
to lose money if you decide to go and not work for a while. You aren't going to be able to earn money if you decide you're going to retire later on. You aren't going to be able to lose money if you become disabled, or maybe you want to spend some time with a relative who needs help, or whatever. There are all kinds of things that you will lack if you don't have a little bit of extra fat padding
Hmm.
your monetary system. So if you are living paycheck to paycheck, it's vital that you find some way to stop that. If you don't, you're living on the verge of bankruptcy, and you'll find yourself on the streets if anything goes wrong. And that is sad. And not, on the one side, there are people who are like, tough, live with it, right? Um, I'm not one of those people. Unfortunately, the best way, in my opinion, to help society deal with issues like this would be something like either a minimum basic income or expansions to Social Security to help people who are having monetary problems, temporary monetary problems, or permanent monetary problems, right? So right now, Social Security helps people who are on disability. Um, uh, like Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act will help people with their healthcare and stuff like that. But like, to really be comfortable, you want to build that foundation for yourself, and you want to
Hmm.
have that leaping off point. There are lots of techniques for establishing living below your means. There are a lot of tools for it. I'm not going to cover it right now,
All
but
right.
maybe later we'll do something on it. So I would say build a fiscal diet for yourself that's healthy. And the last point is, like, when you're investing, just like Kim Bok Ju, the problem with her issue that she ran into was she stopped enjoying weightlifting.
Yep.
That was the core of it, right? And there are various entertaining causes. Highly recommend you watch the show. It's so fun, such a fun show, and such an uplifting show. Like,
Yeah.
I found that show to be really uplifting, and all the people in it. One of the things I love about K dramas is that they seem like they're enjoying what they're doing. And I hope that you, as an investor, will enjoy what you're doing. If you can't enjoy being an investor, there's always, like, very basic ways to invest. Again, like, most I think financial advisors would advise that if you don't like investing, if you don't want to, like, really think about it too much, invest in a low cost index fund. of your choice and like set it on autopilot and just build your wealth over time.
Ride that wave.
Ride that wave. But if you decide you want to actively engage in your investing, find ways to enjoy it. Find ways to enjoy it. It's when I work with my interns, the first thing I have them do is look up companies that are around them that they connect with, that they have an emotional connection with. And so what I want to create for them is this idea of exploration and enjoyment of figuring out things that they didn't know before about common everyday products that might be part of their lives. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, I don't think we have much to talk about after that. I mean, I think we just covered everything, man.
I think so. Wow. So that was today's show, everybody. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. And in the comments, tell us about your favorite way to build on your own health. And you can email us at writingthewake2@gmail.com or follow us on both Instagram and Facebook at writingthewake, one word. Tune in next week for episode 10, where we'll discuss episode 10. Wait, Naya, are we going to discuss Reacher or Batman?
What should we do, Harlan?
What should we do? What should we do? We have to decide quickly.
Let's just go with I am Batman.
I am Batman.
I am Batman.
All right.
Yes,
so we're going to discuss. Actually, I think the show is called The Batman.
The Batman.
The Batman. Yes. So, the Riding the Wake team will be back next time. Hug the hoolie, and we'll see you on land or in the water. Peace, everyone.
Peace.